Hi everybody, I'm Robin Brown, and I'm so glad that others in this room have used the journey metaphor. I'm going to apologize. I think I'm going to take it a little further than others have perhaps in the presentation I'm about to give, but I hope that you'll indulge me with it. So my journey begins back in 2005 when I was a grad student at Florida State University, and I got very involved in online teaching, and I loved it. I loved everything about it. I will always remember in one of my classes I had a focus group, or a group with people all over the world, and I thought it was amazing. So when last year my department decided that they were going to develop more classes, I was really excited to do it, and I was, volunteered immediately to get involved. Unfortunately, however, I had a bit of a shock in realizing that the technology that was in place in 2005 is quite different from the technology that's in place now. And so this put me on this path like the 7 stages of guilt, or 7 stages of grief. Stage 2, this is my lovely department. I felt terrible about the guilt that I felt that I might not be able to develop these classes that I had promised that I would develop for the class. So stage 3 of my 7 stages of guilt, I applied to the e-learning lab last January. This is my bargaining, thinking about how to cope as a smart woman, the smart woman that I am. And so then from there, this maybe doesn't fit as well as some of the others, but I've committed to these 7 stages of grief, so I'm going to stick with it. But I waited to hear eagerly if I would be accepted into the program. And good news, I was. So I participated like you in the lab last summer. It was a wonderful experience, I think, both in getting examples of how to teach well and being encouraged in things that I could do. And what was so interesting for me is that my technological concerns, I realized, were the least of my troubles, and that the infrastructure ain't one of my problems. That there's really other things that are much more interesting in online teaching. So what I found most exciting in thinking about the development in the field is the applications of universal design, thanks to Deb's fabulous speech that she gave during that workshop, which I'm sure you all remember. And so I just thought that I would talk very briefly about the 3 main so representation, expression, and engagement, and thinking about how we can incorporate universal design into our online teaching, which is something that has been really exciting to me. So first, in thinking about learning, I think what's so exciting with online learning is that you're no longer limited to the classroom environment, right? And so you can think about the different ways that students learn best, and accept that that is often happening outside of the classroom. Then too, you can think about the best ways for students to communicate what they learn. So the promise or the curse is that all of the students in the class can be the student that has an opinion on everything you talk about in the class. And then you can also acknowledge that the way in which students are able to engage with the class is going to vary. It's going to vary by their location and also their skill or interest level. And really, I was so interested in engagement that I chose to participate in a faculty learning community focused on student engagement in the online learning environment. Farzad, who spoke earlier, was part of my group. And this was an interesting group because we all were from very different backgrounds. We had different challenges with online student engagement and different interests. We didn't have the same interest as one another. But the way that we found common ground in thinking about this is to consider the different pedagogical strategies that we cut across fields from engineering to sociology, and then to develop a series of suggested activities or best practices. So my example, thinking about how students are so interested in these different social media sites and ways of engaging online, that microblogging could be an opportunity for students to engage in different ways. So right now, our group is developing a wiki page resource that will be available through CELT. So if you go to the CELT webs page, you'll be able to access all of the resources in the package that we're putting together, and I hope you'll use it. So my final stage is no longer grief. It's redirected hope, and I would be certainly remiss if I didn't thank Trey, who was so wonderful in organizing our FLC, as well as CELT and everyone with the ELI program. Thanks.